everybody for coming. Welcome to our Viticulture Center. This is always a fun event. We're happy to have you guys here, and we're happy to see all the ideas that came out of the label design class. So this year we made 6 different wines, and we'll probably put out 5 or 6 different blends, depending on what we think. Oh, there we go. Now it's on. That's always key. So, again, if this is your first time here, welcome, and please make sure you get your glass of wine or some bites that we've put out here. And this year we have 12 viticulture students and 16 label design students, so more designers than winemakers. That's probably good. So thank you for coming in. I'll turn it over to Liz.
You gotta eat the mic.
I have to eat the mic, actually put it in my mouth.
Yeah, pick it up. It's just, yeah.
We might need to turn it on.
It's on.
It is on now. So I will turn it over to Liz, who will begin our presentations. We'll go through we have 11 in person and 5 or 6 coming from abroad. And then after we go through all the presentations, we'll take some more time to think about them, and then the students will all go into the back room and we'll discuss and take some notes and end up with a vote before we leave. So, Liz, thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Liz Brownell, and this is one of my favorite days of the year. This partnership started about 13 years ago and continues, and the students from the Vit Center always do an amazing job of giving us what we would call a design brief, but it's very broad. So there's lots of different little crumbs of great ideas, and the students kind of pick them up and run with them. So what you're going to see today, the first 5 presenters are online students. So they don't come to campus. One of them, who hasn't joined us yet and may not be able to, comes to us from South Africa. So they're from all over the place, which is super exciting. Unfortunately, with a little technical snafu, I have to play telephone with their answers this evening, which is why I've got an AirPod or whatever. I don't say the right word, I know. I've got that in, and so if the VIT students have questions, what I would ask is if you could come up close to ask your questions so that the students can hear you, or maybe, Bill, would you suggest that they stand closer to your mic so that the students at home can hear them?
I think as long as they have that microphone, those questions will be heard.
Perfect. So if you have a question, I will hand the microphone to you to answer that question. So we'd just like to thank all of you for being here. And we will start off today with some video recordings that were made by students who couldn't be here live, and then we'll get to the live students.
Hello everyone, I'm Gabriel Cotto. I'm so sorry that I couldn't make it today. I have a lot of schoolwork, I have a lot of actual work that I need to catch on today. So unfortunately I cannot make it to the gathering. However, I really hope that this video helps you understand the vision that I was trying to go for. Now, as you can see on your screen, these are my 2 labels. I have one that is Midnight Moon, and I have the other that is Rising Sun. Allow me to explain what I was going for with these labels. Now with Midnight Moon, I really wanted to capture the essence of being there, gazing out at the lake at like midnight hours, where you would see the moon's reflection in the water. And obviously if you were to look up, you'd see the moon as well, just gazing back at you. I'm pretty sure we all could agree that that would be a very mesmerizing sort of time. I know that I would like to be out there during that time, and I guess having an accompanying drink during that time would be it would enhance the scene. It would enhance it a lot. To counteract that, I have the Rising Sun, which is meant to be there for when it's very early in the morning, and you're just kind of looking out. Maybe you're not necessarily drinking, but you're out there gazing at the sun rising over the horizon, and you just see the sun's reflection over the water, and then just the burning sensation of your eyes staring at the sun for that long. both of these are supposed to capture a very specific time, one that I'm sure we all can agree would be very beautiful to look at. And that's what I was trying to capture when designing these labels. Thank you so much for your time today. I'm, again, sorry that I could not be there, and I hope everything goes well for everyone, and have a great day. Thank you.
The WebEx today, so if you have questions for Dave, I will do my best to answer them, but if you want to just ask them here, then he at least knows what your questions are.
Make sure you speak on the mic when you talk to everyone too.
Yep. Any questions? Okay, hopefully we'll get more questions as we dive deeper.
Hello everyone, my name is Julia Keene. I apologize for not being able to be there in person to present today, but I am looking forward to showing you all my label. For my wine label, I presented an ice cap, which includes 4 Finger Lakes that are important to the wine industry. The 4 Finger Lakes are Seneca Lake, Cayuga Lake, Canandaigua Lake, and Cayuga Lake. The word ice cap is presented in bold lettering to show the importance of the formation of the Finger Lakes and also the climate that comes along with it. The glacial lakes surrounding the area bring a cooler climate that is perfect for growing a certain variety of grapes. Cooler climates create wines with higher acidity, which is characteristic of Riesling. I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts, and thank you for taking the time to let me present.
So Julia was also not able to be here. Julia was also not able to be here. So if there are any questions for this particular label, I'm happy to try to answer them. And there were crickets. Okay.
Is it, let me ask,
Yes.
is the depth of the rock, is that supposed to be the depth of the lake? Is there some kind of correlation how deep the lakes actually are?
No, I think it's just the visual. So I think that what Julia was going for was just the visual of the sort of glacier-like cap floating. So I think it's more an aesthetic choice than a depth suggestion.
From a printing attribute, I would suggest maybe doing a flat spot coating on the Finger Lakes. They're pretty hidden now, so if you just put a little bit of gloss just on those lakes, it kind of would bring it forward a little bit.
Oh, I see it.
And is that something that we would be able to do, Tina?
If it's still the same budget as a foil, yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'm not putting you on the spot, I swear.
Just
Just-
one decoration allowed.
Just curious.
Took a while to pick out the Finger Lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even actually realize they were there until she said it. And I was like, oh, I see them, okay.
And sometimes that's the beauty of a design, right? All right. Let's go to our next presenter. Madeline Hobbs.
Hi everyone, my name is Maddie. I first wanted to start out by apologizing for not being able to make it tonight, but I still wanted to share with everyone my wine labels. So my design follows the name of Alley Cat, an idea originally coming from one of our viticulture students who had the idea of Alley Cat Soup as the title. I first really liked this idea because it seemed fun, which was a main goal I had in creating this design. And I kept these ideas through the hand-drawn title font as well as the hand-drawn logo on the front of the bottle. I also created 3 different color variations, a green, a pink, and a blue bottle, which could represent many different things through a brand. such as different levels of sweetness or drynesses in the wine. I look forward to hearing everyone's thoughts and opinions as well as seeing everyone else's designs, and I thank you guys for watching.
Okay, so I do have Maddie on WebEx. So Maddie, hopefully you can hear us. She can hear us. So is there anybody, I'm gonna just, she has 3 different color varieties here. So I'm just gonna kind of cycle through them, and if any of you have questions, I will answer them for Maddie. But I would ask that you come up here, I'll bring the mic to you. All right, there's our 3. Oh, no question. Just going that way. I got so excited. No questions for Maddie?
Okay, I'm wondering what are the blue stars? Are they stars? Are they snowflakes? Must be stars.
So she said they were just stars that she added to give a little something in the background.
Can you repeat that on the mic?
Those were just stars that she added, just for ambiance on the label. Well, we have a very quiet group this year. Alley Cat Soup, you don't want to ask any questions, whoever's cool idea that was?
Okay, well, it was my idea, but I need to explain myself. I love this so much. My main goal when I said as an idea to do something called Alley Cat Soup was, of course, to be stupid, but in a fun way. I know you guys are doing art stuff all the time, and half the time it's only fun if the idea is fun. So I'm just very, very happy that one of you guys did this. So thank you. I know you're not here, but thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next one. The next presenter virtually today is Bethany Powell, who is also with us if you have questions.
Hello, my name is Bethany Powell, and let me start by saying what an honor it has been to design this wine label. While choosing from different ideas, this design in particular jumped out. The reason was because I love how simple and dainty it is, followed by the softness of the colors. I even made sure to tie in the colors of the flower with the variety of wine. For example, I did a purple flower for the white wine and a pink flower for the red wine. Also, the reason why I chose this typeface is because it ties in with the curviness of the flower and works in harmony with the design. Now, why did I choose a flower and the title be called Spring Flower? Well, the answer is a simple one. I like how it symbolizes life and a new beginning. And when you think about it, a flower is the first sign of life in spring. And again, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to create something special for your wine bottle.
So I'm just going to take us through the 2 designs. She has the first design with the purple flower, and the second design with the pink flower. So an idea for a white, whoops, and an idea for a red. Any questions for Bethany? Going once, going twice. Yeah.
I would like to do one. I can speak right into the microphone.
Okay.
And she's here?
She is.
All right, very good. I just want to let her know that I think there's some successes here, and I think it's the overall outline and silhouette of the logo. It's powerful, and you can see it from across the room, which is what you want for a wine bottle. And if I had any type of criticism or something for you to explore, I would say the readability of the text. And I think that's a little bit important when you're on the shelf, but it's something for you to consider as far as how you could get creative with that and still not lose your design, but make it readable. But I think it's very successful. Good work.
Excellent. So, Bethany, did you want to respond? Yes, he said that the success was from the strength of the logo and the floral shape.
The silhouette, yeah.
And that the silhouette of that really stands out on the shelf. But if he were to make a recommendation, it would be that the typography pop a little bit more so that it was easier to read. Yeah, not necessarily bigger, but probably maybe a bit more contrast or weight to the letters.
You're welcome.
Okay, I will share that. Thank you so much, Bethany. She said she knew that the type needed a little bit more oomph. The type needs a little more oomph. All right.
So maybe we could put some borders around it, or we could do something to pop it a little bit.
Oh, definitely.
Drop shadow.
shadow. I mean, with any of these designs, I think it's really important to keep in mind that if you love a design, the designer works with you in the spring. And so they're able to really assist you to get it to where you want it to be. All right, and next is Nicholas Slade.
Hi everybody. I'm so sorry I couldn't be there today, but I am lucky enough to be joining this competition all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. The name I have chosen for my wine is alchemy, which can be quickly defined as the magical process of creation or combination. The name and design for this label was inspired by a student who was looking for an ominous design that included a raven or a crow. When looking deeper into these subjects, I took creative initiative to make the design resemble a tarot card, which would look really cool as a wine label. As you can see in my presentation, I have created 3 prototypes for you to consider: a rosé, a white wine, and a red wine. Each have the same design, but a completely different color scheme that goes with both the name of the wine and the type of wine it is. This is how I intend on spreading the label across the 6 bottles in different ways. The use of bright colors take away from the ominous depictions in the design and gives the label a more approachable and inviting feel, while providing a unique personality for each of the wines at the same time. I look forward to hearing back from you, and thank you for this opportunity. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, so Nick cannot be with us, but if you have a question, especially the student who requested the raven, I'm sure he would love to watch this YouTube when he can and answer that question. So he has 3 variations. He actually made 5 labels. So if you look at the first screen when you guys are deliberating later, one of the other colors is included there. So any questions for the tarot card wine label? Yeah.
Not a question, but a statement. He told us this morning that he chose to wear the NYC shirt on purpose.
Yes.
He picked that just for this.
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. And he felt bad about it because it was sleeveless, but he said it was super hot. And I said, it doesn't matter, you represented, and that's all that matters. All right. All right, and next up we have Audrey Brown.
Hi everyone, my name is Audrey Brown. I'm very sorry I was unable to be with you in person today, but I would like to present to you my wine labels. I drew my inspiration from many of the different student suggestions in the client notes that we were provided with, and initially was intrigued by the suggestion of Luminous as a brand name, as well as the mention of incorporating the history of the grapes and the mention of vintage botanical drawings for this label. I decided to depict luminous as this gold foil circle around the grapes used for each of the wine variations, and I thought of it as both a luminous glow around the grapes to draw the viewer's attention, as well as a depiction of the sun that is of course an imperative part of the growing process. Additionally, this began my thought into how I would like to make looking at and reading this label an illuminating educational process for the viewer, as the research I did for this project was also very illuminating for myself. After further discussing the growing process and what the viticulture students were learning with both a past viticulture student from FLCC as well as a current FLCC horticulture student, I decided I wanted to incorporate details from each of the grape varieties grown by the viticulture students to make this wine. Each different wine label will have a different illustration depicting the type of grape utilized in said wine. And I did research into the differences between each grape leaf and vine that each variety of grape has, and wanted to incorporate a drawing of the particular grape variety in order to not only provide an appealing label, but also as a nod to the intricacies and information that the viticulture students have learned as they worked with these grapes through the winemaking process. The style of illustration of the grapes and the typefaces I've chosen for this label were inspired by vintage wine labels and scientific botanical drawings. I felt that this was a great way to reference the history behind viticulture, as well as the history of winemaking in the Finger Lakes region. Finally, for the back of the label, I thought it was important to not only describe the taste of each wine for the consumer, but also to suggest food pairings to go along with that wine, especially for people who are not as familiar with the different varieties of wine. Any suggestions from the viticulture students can of course be included in the wine description on the back of the label, and I'd be happy to alter any of my illustrations for these grapes depicted on the front of the label as well to better suit those grown for these wines. And I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have for me. Thank you.
Okay, and Audrey is here with us today, so if we have any questions, I'm sure she will be happy to answer them.
Liz, is it a hand-drawn illustration?
It is a hand-drawn illustration, and Audrey rendered both of those herself.
Wow.
Right, you got a wow from the expert in the room.
What media did you use?
What media did you use? She worked in Photoshop digitally using a tablet. Any other questions?
They look gorgeous.
They look gorgeous. She says thank you. All right. And we've got one more. I think this is our last video. And this is also a student who's with us today, Matt Neininger.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matthew Neininger. I'm a second-year graphic design student at FLCC, and I would like to introduce to you my wine label design entitled Local Legend 68. To start off, I'd like to address the starting idea and inspiration for the design, which came from one of the viticulture students, who wanted me to do like a vintage take on the FLCC mascot flick, use legend in the title, and then also address a more muted color scheme. For the layout, I decided to do a wraparound label, which I think worked best with my illustration because it didn't break it up like having segmented labels in the front and the back. Everything's one continuous illustration that goes around the label, the bottle. For the title, I decided to go with Local Legend 68, and to break it down, I chose local because it addresses the Finger Lakes region without specifying a specific area. I chose legend because it has like historical implications for like legendary over time history of the lake monster. And then I chose 68 because during my research I noticed that that was the number that the mascot wears on their jersey on campus. For the design aspect, I chose to do a hand-drawn illustration, which I uploaded into Photoshop and added some textures to it, some vintage paper textures. The style I wanted a more representational image, and I kind of matched like some of the styles of the old scientific drawings. I did add some spot color around to address the more important elements, that being the grapes and the lake monster. And then also the style of illustration I chose addressed like levels, so you have above ground, or above the water, above the lake, you have in the lake, and then below where the title is, that's sort of like an underground. And then for type, for the title, the vintage, and then the college, I chose a more calligraphy style, more cursive style. For the volume and the produced bys, I chose more of like a vintage and modern combination typeface. And then for the government warning, I just chose one that was extremely legible. And for why I chose this design, it was pretty easy. I thought it was the best idea because it combined the college, FLCC, with the area, Finger Lakes region, geography, and then with history, legendary legend of the lake monster. So that is basically why I came up with choosing this idea. And then for varietals, I was going to address the spot color for the lake monster, or maybe change the color of the grapes. And I just wanted to say thank you, and if there are any questions, I'll be here to answer them.
And Matt is here if anyone has questions.
What medium was used for the illustration?
Sure, so the question, Matt, is what medium did you use for the illustration? So Matt drew it traditionally on a piece of paper with ink, scanned it in, and colorized it using Photoshop. Other questions?
Where did the idea of using the looks like a grape as bait come from?
Sure, so Matt, where did the idea for using the grape as bait come from? Okay, I probably am not going to get this perfect, Matt, but he had the fisherman here who was fishing and going to catch the lake monster, and so he just had the idea that putting a couple of grapes there tied it well into the label. Did I do okay, Matt? Okay. Yes?
Where exactly does it say local legend 68? I don't see it from here. That low end, okay. So I think that looks really nice. I like that vintage map look. Like it looks like those old, maps of when explorers would cross the ocean. You'd see a sea monster like just floating around in the middle of the ocean. I think that's great. I would think the title would be larger, right? Or just more somewhere. I thought that was I thought that was part of an effect in the label. I couldn't read it clearly, so maybe just another device or play around with that. Maybe I don't know if the winemaker would agree, but from a marketing standpoint, you do want the text of the logo to be highly readable.
Matt, did you catch all that? Yep, just making it a bit more prominent was the suggestion on the front of it, that it kind of gets lost in the drawing.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep, so he said he made it less prominent because he wanted the illustration to catch the eye of the viewer. So.
It does.
I found that effective.
Ah, for what it's worth?
Yeah.
This nice gentleman in the beautiful yellow hat found it effective. Thank you, he really does appreciate that. All right, now I think we're going to live. Thanks, Matt. And Gideon, did Gideon come? Yay! Oh yeah, I saw you, Gideon, sorry, long day.
Okay, there we go. Hello, everyone. My name is Gideon Fiegel, and this is my label, in case you already didn't figure that out. When starting this process, this design process, I took into consideration a couple different suggestions that the viticulture students gave, and I created a theme for my design. And that theme was exploration. I wanted to give the idea of a journey undertaken and new frontiers, and so the title Odyssey came to be. An odyssey, according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, is a long wandering or voyage, usually marked by many changes of fortune. The title Odyssey is meant to convey the journey we took to get to this very place, the hard work that was put into creating both the wine and the labels that is going to go on the bottles. To tie into this theme, I went for an aged design look, referencing old maps and nautical drawings. The hand-inked assets and earth tones of the paper underneath are meant to create a vintage and historical look. I wanted the label itself to appear as if it had seen its own journey before it came into the hands of the consumer. I used elements of a compass pattern in the background, as well as the ship to continue to reflect the idea of a voyage and discovery. Specifically, I sought to reference discoveries of new lands, such as this continent and this region we stand in. The nautical elements also point to the importance of the Finger Lakes around us. However, what is an odyssey without mysteries to be sought out and dangers to be overcome? This is why I also decided to include our very own FLCC mascot, Flick, or at least a vintage take on him, inspired by the Seneca Lake Monster and similar stories. This ties our theme back home to FLCC and the Finger Lakes. And the FLCC, the thing that has brought us all together for this adventure and this odyssey. Thank you all for your consideration of my work, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Yes?
Did you have a specific sea monster or like ancient creature in mind when you decided it?
Not specifically, no. Again, it was the Seneca Lake Monster, the legend of the Seneca Lake Monster. I kind of based this off of also the legend of Champ in Lake Champlain, and then just referencing a couple different pictures of dinosaurs and such like that.
Tell me about the graphic element of the top and bottom border. What's your thought there?
So I was going to go ahead and leave the paper texture there, but then I was going to try to color the top and bottom border to be the color of the bottle and or wine so that it would kind of blend away into the background.
So would that be a printed element and change per varietal?
Yes. Yes.
What changes about the design for each varietal?
So that would be mostly the one thing that changes. The rest would be pretty much the same throughout.
Okay.
You just replace the name.
Yeah, and the name, of course, and the name. And, yes.
What's the background design? The circle?
So it's like an embellished compass design. It has a couple different elements of like Greek lettering and such in it.
Cool.
For the sort of aged look, what sort of techniques did you, from this distance at least, it looks like you might have done a little bit of like hand achieved sort of work on that? Yeah. All of this is hand drawn, except for the title font. But the rest is hand drawn and then in inks and then scanned in and placed using Adobe. Sort of like the smudges and stuff like that. The smudge textures and stuff, that was different elements that I was able to add in with Photoshop. Cool. Yes.
So I just wanted to congratulate you. First, one of the things I was wondering was about the varietal color shifting, and you answered that question, and I think that's smart. I don't know if the client might want you to add a little bit of depth to that so that's a little bit more prominent and less of a sliver, right? But I think that works, and I think that's a classy way to go about it without ruining the main color or imposing on your main color in the middle. But what I really like about your design, and you don't always see it in modern design, is you've got some archetypical geometry in there, and you've got the cross. You know, you've got that weighted cross, and I think that's really powerful. But I also like how it weights vertical, right? It's actually more vertical than it is horizontal, and that really augments or synergizes with the actual length and overall silhouette of a wine bottle. And I think that's great. And if that was conscientious that you did that, congratulations. If it's not conscientious, it's something to consider when designing for vertical, right?
Yeah.
So.
All right, our next presenter will be Dom.
Just talk. Hello. Hey guys, my name is Terrence Dominguez Holber, and I bring to you Melodic Nectar. Both the gold drawn nectar and the piano is a hand drawn illustration. But I created this to embody both the viticulture students and the customer. So this design was inspired by actual customers at the local liquor store here in Canandaigua. And I surveyed some local customers and asked them kind of how they feel when they're drinking wine. Aside from intoxicated, most people answered fancy. So when I asked them what kind of music they think of when they hear the word fancy, it was a unanimous answer of classical music, sorry. This label not only has a piece of all of the viticulture students as far as like the signatures, and I know that one of them stated that they would like to see something with music, but also resonates with the customer. So by selecting this piece, you're making a choice that unites both you and the customer. I want to thank you guys for this opportunity to create this piece, and I will answer any follow-up questions. Yes.
So not so much a question, but a comment, something I really appreciate about the label. You said like classic and fancy, but like the other side of it would be jazz, and piano is an important instrument for both of those. And I think it also kind of mirrors the idea of wine where it's like, yeah, it's this scientific thing, but it's also an artistic thing. So I think that's really cool.
Thank you.
It looks really nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Do the music notes, like in the background of design, do they actually play any like specific tune or melody, or is it just for aesthetic purposes?
Yes, actually it does. It's actually a song from Rihanna. But yeah.
Which song?
Oh man, you got me with names, man. I cannot remember the name. All I know is that it was free to use, and I didn't mess up legally. So that's all I'll say about that. Yes.
I have a question. I really like what you did there, and I like how the yellow stands out against the black, and it augments the nectar with the gold and the piano. I think that pops nice. I've always liked yellow and black myself. Did you play around in the beginning with a wraparound label? Because the sheet music has a nice flow, and I think the music going through the label might be an interesting take. So I don't know if you originally experimented with wraparound labels.
Yeah, so when I did, that's what I started off as. I thought it would look really interesting, but when I had put the piano on the wraparound label, when I started to mess around with the signatures and the back part of the label, it kind of started to swallow the hand-drawn illustration too much. So I ended up trying to breaking it apart so that way when people see this, they focus on the gold centering of the nectar. But when it's on a wraparound, it was too far on the sides to actually make it look visually pleasing. Okay.
Were there other names, or was other names based on the varietals, or was Nectar like the brand?
So you're talking about here or here?
I guess either.
Okay, so for Melodic Nectar, that is the name of the brand. Harmony Riesling, I did make a few of them. They just didn't, how should I say this? It was hard to kind of make multiple boards because I felt like I was doing too much. But I actually named all of the wines, so the Riesling, the New York 81, and the Rosé, everything. So everything actually has its own descriptive term. So for the New York 81, I had strength, so it was like strength, New York 81. Rosé was called the Gracious Rosé. So I wanted, when people kind of came up to the wines that they wanted, so Rosé, I actually looked into the descriptions of how people would feel about the wine when they're going to get it, and those descriptive words is what I use. So for some reason, like Harmony, people thought of like Harmony when they went up to get like Riesling, and so it was all like planned out and actually researched. I just felt like I didn't have enough time to put everything the way I wanted it. So I just came up with this, and if I was selected, I would present all of them, because I think I did send you 2 or 3, like, of the like PDF ones, or what? Yeah.
Okay.
How would you balance it? I like the look of it.
Yes.
Conceptually, when I hear nectar, it makes me think sweet.
Yeah.
So how would you balance getting some kind of focusing on like the dryness? A lot of the wines we're producing are dry, so how do we kind of pull people in and like look and say, oh, nectar, that's a sweet wine, and they walk away before they get any further?
Gotcha. I get what you're saying. The way I designed this was because when you think of like wine, you think of like that's, I don't want to get like too religious, but like nectar of the gods type of thing.
Yeah.
So that's where that idea came from.
It can be easily added between the 2 lines, the Harmony Riesling and the Finger Lakes 22, as a statement of dry, semi-dry, semi-sweet.
Yeah,
That'd be
Gotcha.
a facial indicator.
But I wanted something to kind of pop out, because I feel like when people see gold, they think like valuable. So I was trying to like revolve everything around like catching the attention of the customer and making the customer feel good. So.
And so maybe I missed it, but the nectar and the art around the piano is intended to be gold foil, correct?
Yes, so this is all actual gold foil.
That was my favorite.
Oh, okay, sorry. Yes.
I just want to compliment you for having such good poise up here while exposing yourself with your artwork and being open for critique. I know it's unnerving, and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
So I believe our next presenter is Cade.
Hi everyone, I'm Cade Coriel, and I decided to do something a little bit different. When asked about the design and the idea for the brand of wine, the very common thread was harmony and unity, and I wanted to do a little bit of a subversion with that. Because with harmony and unity, you often think of the idea of coming together in life, but as of recent times, it shows you that we can't always hope and hold on to that harmony and unity. Sometimes you have to face reality. And I show you macabre as the crow flies. Macabre meaning grim, ghastly, and unnerving, and as the crow flies being a saying for straightforward. So this is kind of like a straightforward into the unnerving. The gold and dry design is based wholly on the varietal, the Riesling, the white wine, and the gold lettering for Crow is present throughout every single design. It pops a lot more with the red, and the red is a very poignant and purposeful choice, since the red wine, and that will stand very pop on a shelf. I even chose to put a juxtaposed dry skeleton in front from the Renaissance era, which gave it a lot more age and like grit, I suppose. There's even a little poem here that I added. I can read it here. When you're alone, the Reaper himself may come for you to steal you away. So you must stay together. You must hold close those who you cherish. You never forget who your allies are, because you never know when you might need them. Which is a sort of motto, or like a fable, I guess you could put it, for this idea of avoiding and steering away from the macabre, steering away from the bad times. I'm open to any questions and criticisms, of course, but I thank you once again for being considerate of the design. Wrote it myself.
Again, not really a question, but a comment. I really like the label. It is evocative of some of my favorite from Olivier Le Maison. He's no longer with us, but those hard geometric lines are really cool. Love the contrast, and I like that you have a little bit of fun with the name and the idea.
Yeah, also just another comment, very commendable that you just went a totally different direction than you would normally see. So I think that's great.
Thank you very much.
I also love the contrast. I think it's great. The vertical line going right through the middle of the skeleton has a nice balance, and there's a little weight on the left. I think that's good. That works. Did you try, or be willing to try experimenting with other skeletal things? Was it only human skeletons, or did you try maybe like a crow's skull?
I did originally think of a crow skull in the beginning, but the problem was rendering it, since most good quality crow skulls were not up to free use. So I would 100% be willing to render a different depiction of a skeleton based on an animal, like a crow. So yes, very much possible.
So there's a website called Thingiverse, and you can check it out. And there might be actually CAT scans of different animals' skulls, and you can actually in 3D space manipulate them and move them to any perspective that you want. Take a screen grab, and then you can use that in your artwork. Just something to check out.
Very nice.
Any other questions for Kate? So our next presenter will be Geist.
Hello, my name is Geist Burke, and the wine label I made today is called Interstellar Voyager. The original name was Heavenly Voyager, but I was informed that going with a religious idea was possibly not the best one, could be construed wrongly. The idea came from one of the viticulture students who informed us that the grapes they are using are a hybrid, which is new in the wine scene. So they wanted to go with the idea of exploration and seeing what they can do with that. I've lost my train of thought.
Do you want me to go back to the red one?
Yeah. So I went with Interstellar Voyager to go into the exploration route with also the space in the name. Let me get into the design, see if I can get my brain back. So I chose to go with an astronaut because I wanted to get into the people behind the wine. Concepts don't make themselves, wines don't make themselves. People have to explore them. So I wanted to commemorate the people behind that by putting an actual person onto the label instead of going with like the sun or a planet. There were two ideas for foil in the design, one being the white stars and the astronaut being a silver foil, and the other idea being the gold stars and the name being a gold foil. I also chose to go with a less classic design simply because while I saw that a lot of the usual wine labels are very simple or very elegant, I do not really go with simple and elegant, and felt that it would be a crime against myself to not put my own personality into this.
Very nice.
I also just like space. Any questions? Yes?
Did the name Celestial Voyager ever come to your mind, or did that still bring up religious quantities?
Celestial did come to mind, but there are so many space words that I could have chosen that there's really anything I could have put up there. I just felt Interstellar had enough syllables to match with Voyager. Yes?
I just want to piggyback off what this intelligent gentleman just said here is there's lots of different synonyms for space. There's cosmic, right? There's stellar instead of interstellar. I don't know how many syllables you're looking for. I just want to tell you I think this is a great, almost uncanny balance of fun and playful, but classy. It's so hard to get that balance. I want you to be very proud of yourself with this because it stands out. It pops in the right places. You can tell like the astronaut's coming into a nebula of wine. It's not just a solid color. It's broken up and bubbly, but it's not noisy. I think that's great. Good work.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, babe?
The orange. What varietal was the orange color going to be used for?
That is meant to be the Riesling. The problem was I wanted to keep the gold foil look, but with gold on top of the light yellow of a Riesling, it just didn't pop enough.
Yeah.
I also wanted to do a skin contact Riesling, but I could not for the life of me find what color that is.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to mention that the back of the label is what the wine tastes like. It's obviously different between the two wines. And then the bottom is meant to go with the space theme, being every sip of this wine will push you to explore and discover as you do. And the red wine, you can go back to that, please, has a different one saying every sip of this wine is an adventure in itself and should be shared. I think that's all right.
And next up, we have Jennifer.
Yippee! It is on, kind of, yes?
Yep.
Cool. Hi, so my name's Jennifer Rain. I'm a second-year design student here at FLCC. This design was influenced by a student suggestion of the lake monster of, our mascot, Flick. Funnily enough, we have our own legends in the Finger Lakes of sea monsters and lake monsters, like the Seneca Lake Monster, the Cayuga Lake Monster, and Old Greenie here for our own Canandaigua Lake. I am amazed that this legend has persisted throughout the years that it has been around, much like our very strong and persistent wine and tourism industry, which these two amazing legends have brought us all here to the FLCC Viticulture program. I love how this legend has persisted, much like the students have throughout this program, helping each other achieve their goals and building themselves up to make their own mark on the Finger Lakes. I started this design with a hand-drawn serpent. I did this to create a sense of movement and to encourage the consumer to pick up the label and actually look at it. I intended for the persist and the correlating colors on the bottle to be foiled, but you can decide what is best. I also added a topographical pattern in the background to mimic the ripples of the lake. And if you have any questions or need clarifications, please let me know. But thank you for letting me design.
The topical background image could actually represent the terroir as well, underneath the soil.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's a very unique sweetness scale.
Oh, Oh, thank you. The idea was to have what sweetness it would be to be in foil, so it was a little easier from like, you know, once you pick it up, you know what the dryness or sweetness is. I also have a little bit of a blurb here, but the Viticulture Center, the students can figure out what they would rather have in there. Yes?
Did the design of the serpent change at all, or was it consistent when you were designing?
I was playing around. I spent a whole day drawing serpents. So it was a pretty good day. So it changed quite a bit, but I think I'm happy with where it landed.
Okay. Awesome.
It's a very friendly sea monster.
Yeah, I feel the sea monsters aren't very mean. They're misunderstood. They're misunderstood. They're very friendly.
You just want to sit.
Yes, guys.
Did you have a particular reference for the sea monster, or did you just wing it?
So I was looking at Old Greenie, our own Cayuga Lake monster, but then that kind of transformed, because if you look at our sea monsters, it's more like Gideon's design, where they have that big old blob on their head, but I didn't really feel like that matched what I was trying to go for. Yeah.
So all you students this year are doing so well. I mean, these are super professional, and I see them on every wine bottle. All of them have their really, really big strengths. I had a question for you, and that was, I'm noticing that the lake monster and the main logo share the same color in the top one, but the other two don't. So, and I also think possibly,
These are actually different colors. This is more of a copper. I think on the screen it
Okay.
comes across like this, but this is the same color as the vintage.
Okay, so the Persist and the Lake Monster are not technically the same color?
Yeah, because this would be foil. This is the same, like,
Okay,
color as that.
it's
But
very close.
You know, if it is too close, I would be open to changing it.
Yeah, because I think the Persist might be a little lost in the middle one, because it shares a lot of the color to the background. And I don't know if you'd be willing to kind of experiment, but also the solid oval is really pulls you in. That's a bullseye, right? I mean, that's a strong instinctual pull. All humans go for circles and circles. So that Persist bullseye on the bottom is from, maybe it's the monitor. It's losing, right? It's scant, and I think you can find strength in that if you pull that out. So you maybe just play with it. You might like what you find.
Thank you. Keep that in mind.
So on the Seneca Lake part and then the alcohol by volume part, I feel like it's a little bit to that local.
I see what you mean, yes. I
Maybe
just,
like,
a tweak.
yeah,
Yes.
just like not much.
Yeah, a nudge down and a nudge up. Yes.
Yeah, I was curious if you ever thought about using like the Ouroboros here, because it's also like persistence, and you're already in a circular shape. I'm curious if you had ever crossed your mind at all.
Self-eating circle.
It's a serpent eating its tail.
Oh, no, I did not think of that. I don't know what that was. Now I know.
Image, and it's about infinity and life and death.
Very
Persistence,
cool.
so.
It's really funny because when it first popped up, that was my immediate
Yeah.
reaction.
Same.
Was Ouroboros.
So one thing I will add for Jennifer is that if you didn't notice, I think all of the students would agree that designing for all of the varietals that you're creating, that takes a turn up. Designing for all of the varietals that you're making, these students only have 3 weeks from start to finish for this project, so that was a pretty lofty undertaking.
Good job.
Thank you. But, yeah. That's it.
Next, we have Matthew Callan.
Hi, my name is Matthew Callan. My inspiration came from one of the students who was talking about hybrid grapes and how it's considered a new frontier in the wine community. And that made me think of you guys kind of thinking out of bounds and like breaking boundaries came to my mind. And when I think of breaking boundaries, I think of rocket. And so I wanted to make a more simplistic design. So I came up with this rocket design. And I have the yellow here to represent white wine. And it's Riesling there, but you can change that to any other white wine that you would like. And on the back, I have a brief description about the hybrid grapes and then like the sweetness level with the rocket going up. And for my second design, I have the same thing, except it is red. And here it's Cabernet, but that can also be switched. And the rocket there is also red. Thank you very much. And any questions? Oh, yes.
The simple pictographic scale on the back there tells the dryness or the sweetness. That's really smart because when you're choosing wine bottles, I don't, but somebody does. They don't tend to look a long time at the label. So the faster and quicker you can make a decision from a marketing standpoint, I'm in a hurry because I gotta get out of here and go do 12 other things, is a good idea. So just kudos for that.
Thank you. I went to Archiview Liquor and they have hundreds of wines, and I looked at the back of them, and one of the things that caught my eye most was like the sweetness level. So I'm not into wine, so it's kind of like some stuff that caught my eye. I figured I'd try to put on there because I might catch other people's eyes too. Yes?
When you were designing rockets, was this pretty much the one you stuck with from the beginning, or was there a process?
Yeah, I kind of wanted the cartoon rocket look, so I looked at some different designs, and then I basically just made an oval and started building off of that, and this is what I came to.
Thank you. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Cambry.
Hi guys, I'm Cambry. After reading the client's notes, I realized there was a common theme of unity, exploration, and overcoming obstacles. The name Starseed is being spiritually aware and having a strong connection to Mother Earth.
Sorry.
You're fine.
You ran away.
I'll just keep reading.
Hang on 1 second. I'll
Okay.
get back to where you want to be.
Yeah. There were many diverse students that came together committed to exploring new techniques despite many obstacles. Their innovative passion and connection has driven them to produce the best wine possible. I saw one of the viticulture students recommended a semi-geometric with a touch of abstraction for the label, which is a 20th century type of style. That made me think of Paul Klee's artwork, which inspired me to come up with the background of my label. I personally love wine. My friends and I bond over the new types of wine that we find in stores. I wanted to create a label that everyone could relate to. When I go to the store to look for wine, I look for fun labels that make me happy, and I think I did my best at creating that for everyone here today. I hope you guys like my design and I can answer any questions you have, and I'm open to changing anything on my label that you guys recommend. This is my Riesling design, and then I have my rosé. Kate?
What was the blue, like the opposite colors where there's a pink and a blue? Were the blues significant at all? Like, did they have a purpose, or were they just for aesthetic purposes?
Mostly aesthetic. I came up with, you're talking about the Riesling label?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought that blue and the yellow kind of reminded me of Riesling.
All right.
Compared to like the rosé with pinks and reds. Yeah.
What color combination did you be thinking about for the darker reds?
Maybe like a brown and like a dark red. Yeah.
I like what you did here, and I think what's interesting about this logo is, and not just the strong geometry, because you've got the X in there, you've got the star, and I don't know if you experimented with making the star pop a little bit more in the center. Right now it's kind of subtle, right? And I don't know if the star should be subtle, since Star Seed is the title.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about your logo is there's so much room for evolution. This would be a great logo not for a whole brand, not just a one-off, but a whole company who's looking to actually take this and then use it for the evolution of their brand, because there's so much that you can do in this. And I just want to congratulate you with kind of putting together a logo that could actually take on a life.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yep.
Just commending, from a visual perspective, your eye, when you look at that label, is automatically drawn with the X's and the lines. It draws it right down to the name, which is great from a branding perspective. From a consumer perspective, which you are,
Yeah.
you might want to see the word Riesling a bit bigger, which is obviously you can play with, but just that it's. Initially, I wasn't sure about the design, but once I looked at it for a minute more, it does make you look at the name.
Yeah.
Which is what you want from marketing.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yeah.
What's on the bottom of the cap?
Right here?
Yeah.
That I didn't design that. That was just in what was in Adobe.
Got it.
Yeah.
I thought it was our signatures or something. Which would be cool.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And our next presenter will be Pearson Ken.
Hey everyone, I'm Pearson Ken, and the wine label that I went with is Bull Moose. I got the name Bull Moose because it's the strongest land animal in upstate New York, and all the students talked about how they show strength through the process. My wine label is a collage broken up of the different aspects of the cultivation process, with the viticulture center right in the center, highlighted in red, and then grapes highlighted in yellow. And if you follow up, you have the star right on the Geneva Center, on Seneca Lake. The star represents the actual location of the Viticulture Center. The compass points northeast to point towards upstate New York, because we're in the northeastern area of the United States. And then Finger Lakes is at the bottom of the title to symbolize that we're Finger Lakes Community College students. And then with my different varietals, the only thing that changes on my varietals is the little band that goes across it. So with Riesling, you have this white band that kind of circles around, and then the back of it will change color as well. So on my red varietal, it changes from white to red. That's it. Not too typical, kind of over the place, but it's how I like to do things.
That's why I love the name. Teddy Roosevelt's one of my favorite presidents, and he was also he was also called the Bull Moose. That was his nickname. A lot of people don't know he was born in New York State, so that kind of has a connection. I kind of like it almost looks like a skateboard sticker.
Yeah.
And I think that's rad. So, and I'm a BMXer, so I appreciate that type of thing. You want to slap it on something. So I think that has some power to it, and I think it's catchy what you've did here. It's noisy, but what you've done with the logo is you've still made the logo prominent, and that's great. That's good.
Well, and I want to add, because Pearson, I don't think you gave yourself enough credit here, because Pearson also built the entire background as a physical collage and then scanned it in. So it gives it really a different feel.
Yeah, it's mixed media from like actual like paper, me like going at it with scissors and like re-ripping up paper too. And
That's so punk.
Tape over it, and then I splattered paint all over it. So the yellow paint splatters represent like grape splatters. So I was thinking of like stepping on grapes, like having them splatter.
For those of you who know the brand, it's kind of like very bully hillish.
Right.
Yeah, so I was gonna say it's like a pretty punk rock label. It definitely makes me think of like natty or hipster wine, which I think is a lot of fun. And I do appreciate that even though like the collage has a lot going on, the logo itself is like clear, it's eye-catching, it doesn't get lost.
Yeah, I appreciate that, thank you.
How fun would that be to print, Tina?
It'd be fun. It's pretty straightforward. Not a lot of decorations and things.
Oh, I didn't know if all the different colors or.
No, we print everything out of CMYK.
Oh, okay.
Do you plan on leaving room for the sweetness scales?
Yeah, I could add it, yeah.
Yeah, I think that is important for people to choose wine, especially if you're buying it as a gift, right? You don't know what the person likes, but you know if they like sweet or dry. It's really important when you're trying to gift wine.
Yeah. Yeah, I could add it in.
Okay, do you have a question?
Did you ever think of having a actual like a moose's head for like a design, like a?
Kind of, but I wanted to stick with the story of the viticulture students and like go through the whole process of creating the wine. And I wanted that to be predominant, looking at the label.
Any other questions? So our last label is Troy. Did Troy come? All right.
Can everyone hear me? My name is Troy Foster. I'm a second year student at FLCC, and for my design I chose a grizzly bear claw, which is like digging into the design, revealing Finger Lakes. This design idea was from one of the viticulture students who requested a bear claw, or like a bear or some kind of animal similar to that because they thought it would be cool. And I thought, yeah, that makes sense. Bears are pretty cool. So I'll just fix it for my design. And over to the right, I got the signatures of all the viticulture students, which I brought from Photoshop, just took the background out and just pasted it onto a lighter green square so you can see more clearly. And for the font, I tried like a more like a crazier font, I guess you'd call it. And for the, like the government warning and the produce and bottle, it just shows like a more legible font. I'm here to answer all your questions and concerns. Thank you for taking your time for looking at my wine design. Yes.
Not a question, but a comment. Like the idea of the actual scrape is something that I haven't seen, but when I do see it, it's very effective and like evokes the actual feeling of texture.
Thank you. Yes.
Two things, and one of them was a discussion point that we were just talking next to me. I think the lakes are flipped,
Yes, they are.
right? So it's either a mirror or it's a 180-degree flip. Was there a reason for that?
I previously thought that when the bear design is like shaped sides like this, it looked a lot better, and if it flipped the other way, it looked a bit more awkward. So I decided like the finger legs would match the bear's claws scraping into it.
Like a scrape? Interesting. And my second comment was, why grizzly, since that bear is not indigenous to this region? Did you try maybe a different bear name? I don't know.
I thought like grizzly would be a name that stands out quite well.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Grizzly.
Yes.
I think the font that you chose for grizzly is perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Pretty good.
All right, any other questions for Troy? So I just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to the students and encourage not only the viticulture students, but anyone here to ask the students questions about their labels, as well as a shout out to Tina Lemley for her team at Niagara Label for their generosity in working with us. And also, I think it's important to let all of you know that the student who wins tonight is also very graciously given a scholarship from Niagara Labels, which Tina made possible, for $500. So thank you, Tina. And
Wow, those are really good designs. You guys have made our job more difficult. I'm excited to go talk about these and see what we come up with. What's really great about this process is it's from the label designer, it's a great opportunity to actually put your ideas into practice. And for the winemaking students, it's a great exercise because this is how it works. This is we are not good at designing labels. We hire people that are good at them, and then we have to learn how to work with them. And all of you guys presented and suggested that you guys are willing to work with us and make changes. And all of these have little tinkers that we can do, and that's what I just want to say that's the important part is that we can learn how to work together and come up with something that represents what we're trying to do here. So thank you again, everybody for coming. Any final questions or thoughts on these? Well, with that, please help yourself to some food and wine while you're here. Enjoy yourself for a little bit, and in a little bit, the wine students will meet and we'll start to go over these. So, thank you, everybody.